Alright, today we're doing ball joints and control arms on the Mercury Mariner Hybrid, and this is the same procedure for all of the Escapes, Mariners, and Tributes from like 2005 through 2012, I believe. And I decided, instead of just replacing the ball joints, I was going to replace the whole ball joint and control arm assembly. I got these online from a company called Detroit Axle, and it comes with the new bushings already in place and the ball joint already in place. The only negative part about it is the ball joint looks like it's non-replaceable, so when these wear out I'll have to replace the whole control arm again. But on the other hand, they were like $74 for a pair of them, including shipping. And since I live so close to Detroit, where the company's at, they were here the next day. I ordered them on Monday. They arrived UPS on Tuesday. Let me show you the old control arm here real quick for reference. It seems to be about the same quality steel-wise, but my problem was the actual ball joint here. You can see how the boot is all ripped up and how loose it is. It's like up and down and back and forth. The whole front end was shaking very badly, and I'm attributing it to that. This is a push-out style. I could have just replaced the ball joint. It would have been about $20, but then I looked at the bushing back here, and the rubber in this bushing here is just like totally shot. Look how loose that is. It's like twists and it rocks in and out, up and down. So even if I would have replaced the ball joint, I still would have had a lot of control and sway issues from that loose bushing. And by the time you replace that bushing and have it pressed in, you're looking at just being better off just going ahead and getting a whole new assembly. Let's see. Oh, yes. There's only actually 3 bolts required to remove this whole assembly. And other than taking the wheel off, there's really no other things that you have to remove underneath. So there's one big long bolt that goes up into the frame through this hole. There's one that goes sideways. It's a 15 millimeter, I believe, in through here, through the frame bracket. And then the cinch bolt that goes here, plays, and that one's also a 15 millimeter, I believe. The big one, for that big bolt that goes up into it, is a 21 millimeter. And I did everything with the 24-inch, half-inch drive breaker bar, and it worked out really well. I imagine there's some sort of torque spec on these, but what I did, I put the big breaker bar on there, and I just turned it till I couldn't turn it anymore. Really cranked down on it hard. So we'll probably double check them here in a week or so, see if they gotten loose, listen for any unusual rattles or anything, but I cranked these down real hard. I really don't think they're going to come loose. We're going to go ahead and put the second one on now, and I'll see if I can show you a few tips and tricks while we're doing it. I don't have all my best tools with me here right now, so we're going to make do with what we got, but you see here's the 21 millimeter one here that goes up into the frame. We're getting a little bit of surface rust around the frame right there, but we'll spray that down with some oily sealant type stuff that I have, and that's not really even rusty by Michigan standards, but yeah, that's just normal surface corrosion. The other one, if you can see it, is right down there. It goes in sideways through here. That's where the 15 millimeters goes in sideways across. And then the other 15 millimeters here on the end, got a little sunburst right there, but it's right here where my finger is. That's the cinch bolt for the steering knuckle to the ball joint. And this one running really bad. I mean, it didn't feel loose or anything, but since this control arm bushing back here is all cracked and loose, I figured why not change them both, and that's what I'm going to do. You may have noticed the tie rod end is like not totally installed yet. That was a totally different video. We're going to show on how to change the tie rod end on this, and it had nothing to do with this particular job. But we're spraying all these bolts with PB Blaster, which should keep everything turning smoothly. We're going to take out, the first one we're going to take out is going to be the cinch bolt here, because that's the easiest and it'll stay together anyway. And then we'll take out the big one up into the frame, and then the sideways one. And I'll show you that after we get some of this done. Alright, we've broken this loose with the breaker bar. We're just using the little ratchet handle with an adapter right now because it's coming out real easy. Seem to have misplaced my 1/2-inch drive ratchet handle. This is working fine. I could have got the cordless impact gun out, but we're gonna do this job without any power tools, just so you guys can see it is a actual do-it-yourself project that you can do without a lot of fancy equipment. And honestly, there's really not much real skill or, you know, thinking involved in this. This is simply a muscle job. Bolt on, bolt on. It's just a matter of applying the proper force to the proper bolts and then bolting everything back up again. And this is surely something you can do yourself and save some money. Alright, all 3 bolts are out, and it would have been easier if we had the power tools. But I wanted to show you how to do it without power tools. It would also be easier if we removed this splice shield here. But we were able to push it in like that and access the bolts on both sides, so you don't have to actually remove that splice shield either. And again, like I say, my videos are always all about showing you the easiest way to do something. Not always necessarily the recommended way, but ways you can cut corners, save time, and make it a little easier, especially if you don't have access to a hoist or power tools. Alright, now we got all the bolts out of the control arm. We're going to wrestle it outward like this so that the control arm drops down onto the ground, taking any tension off of the ball joint and making it easier to access the back of it. And you'll see why in just a second. Alright, the control arm's laying on the ground. Look at this bushing here. There's like nothing left inside that bushing. It's totally shot. Just totally loose in there. That would screw up your alignment, cause it to shake, cause your wheels to wear out crooked. The other thing is, be careful you don't jostle these U-joints around too much. I've already got this extended out kind of far. You know, we want it to stay inward so you don't damage the universal joint, the CV shaft, I guess we could call it, the half shaft. Alright, now you see how the ball joint control arm is laying down. Now that that's down, we're going to take a wedge and we're going to stick it in to the shaft clamp assembly. We're going to stick it into that clamp assembly there, like so. Then we're going to drive it in with a hammer from the other side, and that's going to actually pry the ball joint clamp mechanism apart, and it's going to allow that ball joint to fall right out, so we don't have to beat on it or try and use a pickle fork or a tool to extract it out. It's going to come right out super easy once we put a little pressure on that wedge. We can see the whole control arm assembly, where's it, right there, is now laying on the ground. Just about 10 little taps right here with a hammer. That dropped right out because we had this pry bar wedged in there. We could leave that in there. We might even assist in putting it back in. So now we're going to show you how the reverse installation works real simply too. On the reverse installation, we're going to start by putting the back 2 major big bolts in place, and then the tie rod or ball joint will be the last thing we press back up into place. Alright, we've wrestled it back into place. We've tightened down the horizontal bolt as tight as we can with the small wrench. Well, I just found out I made a mistake in putting these on, and we had to fix it. And I'm going to show you real quick here what the issue was. The control arm has this rubber bushing in here. I thought it was free spinning, but apparently it's not. It's all sealed down tight. And I thought that would rotate a lot or move freely once the suspension's tightened down. But apparently it doesn't. So, since the car is up in the air, when you mount this up, and then as you let the weight down off the jack and the wheel comes down, the wheel raises up and the car settles down, this whole thing pivots like this way. So if you've got the bolt mounted to the frame really tight, when you let it down, this is going to pivot up, the bolt's going to stay stationary along with the center metal sleeve, and your rubber inside here is going to twist and bind, and it's going to put a lot of stress and such on this rubber bushing here and cause it to wear out prematurely, quite possibly, or even rip it. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to leave this loose, put the tire back on, let the car down off the jack, and then get underneath on a pair of ramps or something and tighten it back up. Or alternatively, put a little jack underneath the ball joint side here, lift it up a few inches to where it's going to be about the same as it would be with the car staying down on the ground, and then do your final tightening of this bolt here. And I do believe he said that the torque spec on this is supposed to be between 120 and 140 foot-pounds. This one here is supposed to be about 80 or 90, I believe, and the cinch bolt here is supposed to be about 50 to 60. So there you go. Since I've already got it done and back together, I'm going to go ahead and just do it the quick way. I'm going to drive my car up on the ramps. I'm going to get underneath and loosen this up, just a couple quick turns, let the bushing sort itself out, and then tighten it back up again, and we'll be good to go. I have to say, I drove the car yesterday. It drives nice and straight down the road, no issues or problems whatsoever. And I want to thank the person who commented on this and gave me the information. A lot of times I do things as best I know how, and sometimes I don't know how to do things, and I appreciate the advice and tips that people give me. Now we've tightened down the vertical bigger bolt as tight as we could with the small wrench. Now we're going to put the breaker bar on both of them and tighten them as tight as we can with the breaker bar, and that'll be good enough. And now we're going to do after that we'll do the ball joint by simply pulling down on the control arm, lining the ball joint up with the tip with the hole, and pushing it up into place. Last time it wouldn't go all the way up into place easily, so what I did was I brought a jack over and I put a jack underneath the control arm and lightly lifted up, and that actually pushed, the jack actually pushed the ball joint into the proper place before we put the cinch nut in. And if we do that again, we'll show you how that works. Alright, we've got the ball joint shaft lined up with the pinch bracket of the steering knuckle. And you can see we've got the jack set up underneath it. Now we're going to give it just a little encouragement to go up and into place by lifting up on the jack. Alright, well, the job is done. Everything's tightened up together. Took about 45 minutes for each side, I would say, maybe an hour. And you can do it too. Save yourself a bunch of money and have your car back in safe running condition in no time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.